Luxury trips, billionaire donors, dark money. Oh, my. Scrutiny continues over allegations of ethics violations facing justices of the Supreme Court. According to ProPublica, these breaches include an undisclosed fishing trip to Alaska for Justice Samuel Alito with Republican mega donor Paul Singer. Singer's hedge fund has repeatedly had business before the court, but Alito never accused himself. In the wake of disclosures about sketchy travel and outside activities by some of the justices, the Senate Judiciary Committee voted along party lines to approve a bill that would require the Supreme Court to adopt a binding ethical code. One of the members of the court has taken a public stand against the bill, Justice Alito. He told the Wall Street Journal, quote, "Congress did not create the Supreme Court. The Constitution did. I know this is a controversial view, but I'm willing to say it. No provision in the Constitution gives them the authority to regulate the Supreme Court, period." Alito's unprecedented interview as a sitting justice was published in the op-ed section of the right-wing Rupert Murdoch newspaper and conducted by attorney David Rivkin, who represents the plaintiffs in a major tax case that the court will hear next term. Gee, I wonder how they're going to rule on that. Joining me now is Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island, a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. And Senator, just the fact that somebody who's got cases before the court did the interview, the fact that Alito gave the interview and then pretended that Congress has no role in regulating the court, well, so long separation of powers. Your thoughts?
Well, Rivkin is not just a lawyer with a case before the Supreme Court. He's also the lawyer for Leonard Leo.
Of course.
Running the opposition for Leonard Leo to answering our questions from the Judiciary Committee. And if you'll remember, all of these justices come before us for their confirmation and their questions. And what did they say more than anything else? Gee, I'd like to answer that question, but it would be unethical to offer my opinion because that's a matter that might come before the court. And here's Justice Alito offering his opinion on something that might come before the court with no hesitancy whatsoever, that is actually unethical by the standards of his own colleagues when they appear in our committee. And that's before you even get to the merits of how wrong he is substantively.
Let me ask you this question very quickly. Who provides the budget for the Supreme Court?
Congress does.
Who provides the budget for their security?
Congress does.
Just checking, because he seems to think y'all have nothing to do with them. We, in our previous segment, talked about the Milligan case in Alabama, wherein the Republican Party in that state defied the court because they would like to go back to the Supreme Court and have it reheard on the merits to get rid of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. The reporting from the Alabama Reporter says that Republican operatives in Alabama have intel that they know how Justice Kavanaugh would rule on that. At this point, when you've had decisions like Hobby Lobby and Dobbs leak, both of which were written by Samuel Alito, and people claiming they know essentially how justices would rule if they can just get there. At this point, is the Supreme Court legitimate in your view?
I think it has a legitimacy crisis that is going on for a whole variety of reasons. All the dark money around it, why it's keeping so many secrets, the way it rules in perfect alignment with the right-wing billionaires and their phony amicus curiae front group, the extraordinarily bad ethical misbehavior of these justices. It just piles up, and it all points in the same direction, which is a court that is captured and in tow to a very small group of right-wing billionaires.
What's the status of your legislation? Do you think it can pass the Senate? And I know you don't work on that side of the Capitol, but is there any shot this could even pass the House, given who runs the House?
The two shots are these. One, Democratic majorities in the House and the Senate that will pass it. And two, the continued revelations. This is going to get worse. There is more to find out about what these justices have been up to with their billionaires. And as more and more information comes out, as the situation gets worse and darker, I think at some point even Republicans have to say, all right, we can't go down with this ship. Let's clean this mess up.
And because if we're at the point where Republicans are now defying the court and saying to hell with their rulings, we're not going to follow them. And that's what's happening in Alabama right now. But they're also doing it for a reason that says that we know there's at least one unethical member there where we know how he's going to rule. To me, this makes the case that Republicans actually ought to care, because Republicans are now saying we're only going to follow the Supreme Court rulings we agree with.
Well, you're good to be following the Alabama case. Watch it as an integrity check, because it's going to be an interesting comparison with all the high-speed ways in which the Supreme Court, through the shadow docket and things like that, helped right-wing issues move forward. And if they stall on this one so that the Democrats lose a black majority district that they've already declared is justified in Alabama just by stalling, that's going to send a really rotten signal. This is an integrity check for the court.
And just to go back for one moment to Alito, it is unprecedented, I believe, for a Supreme Court justice to speak this openly to a news organization. Could that in itself be a lack of ethics that he did that?
If you follow the terminology of his colleagues, when they come before us for confirmation, they say we can't talk about issues that might come before the court because it would be unethical. That's what he just did. It's a lay down hand, as you call it in poker.